This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Forbidden Rubbish.
Hey.
How have you been?
Hello. What's up, everybody?
Hello.
Hi. How have you been, ladies?
We're good.
Well, they don't really matter. What I will do, though.
Look at you today.
So,
it matters.
Today's an
Forbidden
exciting
Rubbish
day.
Squad. So this is a historical, monumental, and epic episode for the FBR pod because today we are officially welcoming our very first guest.
Yay!
So just a little bit, just a little bit, Papa. Just a little bit. It's always the thug. Our guest today is multifaceted and accessorized with many hats, a dedicated and compassionate individual, committed to volunteering with active involvement in her community and church, Sunday school teacher, minister, greeter, worshiper, responder, favorite and wise business owner with the BBB, Waco Housing Authority Director for 33 dedicated years, almost 33 years. This wife, sister, aunt, mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother is the heart and soul of every organization she blesses. Strangers, co-workers, family, and friends. Welcome to Forbidden Rubbish, my beautiful mom, Latanya Rector.
And my sister.
And her sister.
Yay.
I'm the one that got to get something in.
Don't forget.
Well, thank you, ladies, for having me after that introduction. I didn't know if I wanted to stand and take a bow or two of them. You know what I mean? Kick up a hill or something.
What it
Shut your mouth and keep on going.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling wonderful. I'm just lovely. I thank God that I'm up, got the use of my limbs. I'm able to move and
Move a little bit.
I move a little bit.
Amen.
Like
And
some with the shoulders.
That's it.
Already.
Back a
Sisters
little
with the
bit.
shoulders.
That's it.
S and S.
Get out.
I'm loving them boots.
Yeah, I told her the same thing. I should have took
Thanks.
those.
So
I should have
cute.
snagged those boots.
Those are cute. You look so cute.
Well, thank you, ladies. All of you look beautiful. That's what it
you.
is. And the whole thing about it is something about that gene, the fam gene.
Okay.
It
that's
is.
Them jeans.
The fam
Good
jeans.
jeans. Good jeans.
That's it.
James.
Already. And well, thank you for coming on
Yeah.
our
Yes,
podcast today.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
thank you.
I feel like a celeb.
You are.
Pretty. Okay.
More important than a celeb. All we
the
missing is a
lights.
red carpet. We got
Okay.
this one, but
Y'all don't see it? I see it. It's
Okay.
red. Oh, I see
All
it. I
right.
see
I
it.
see
I see it.
Yeah.
I know that I received that.
what do we have on the agenda today? What are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about grieving.
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 Grieving is the topic today. A lot of people have dealt with grief, and it's a lot of people out there who are still trying to cope, don't know how to cope with it. And so this episode, I was just like to encourage. I hope somebody gets something out of it, a
Right.
takeaway. Just encourage people to, even through the midst of it, the
Yeah.
storm that you feel like you in,
Right.
it'll get better
Yeah.
with time.
With time.
Within time,
I agree.
and just keep on keeping on. So,
So I definitely define grieving as not just coping with the loss of like death, but it could be a divorce because that's a separation
that's
too.
true. That's true.
Breaking up after a committed long relationship,
A friendship.
losing, of your kid's father or mother. It's a lot of things that cause us to go into grief. So
Yeah,
let's jump into it.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing to it but to do it.
But to do it.
I'm sorry. I'm like, did you get your nose pierced this week? I was
Nose pierced.
nose pierced.
I just changed the.
Yeah, she
okay.
normally
See,
wears a
I-
small
a
one.
small one because I don't really like it to be noticeable. But I was like, I'm gonna.
Why
'cause
wouldn't
I've
you
been
want it
having
to be
for a couple
noticeable?
of years now. So I wanted to change it up.
But why wouldn't you want it to
I
be
do, but when
noticeable?
I first started, I was just like a little dot, you know.
Yeah, a little
I didn't
dot.
want no real.
But now
big
you
old
giving-
bedazzle.
Somebody
giving
always
Patra,
trying to be
honey.
modest.
Oh,
modest.
You giving Patra.
Okay.
What's that?
The butterfly.
The butterfly.
Yeah.
Patra.
I thought she was a roll. I thought she was a roll
And
back.
she was with the
She was
Oh,
like
with the
a-
butterfly. Okay, sometimes. Dang, she was talented.
All you need is a chain, honey.
Girl.
Mr.
no,
Lava
hey,
Lava. Who sing that? Mr. Lava Lava.
Shubba. But
Oh,
it's the
Shubba.
hair for me though.
Girl, this her.
Because
by the end of this show right here, it'll probably be froed out. I'm gonna just give y'all a fair
Audience, can
warning.
y'all tell they all related? I've been knowing Summer since 13. I think Denny since, what kind
probably
Can I call
13,
you-
14.
Can I call you Denny on this?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can.
Yes.
Denny.
Little Denny.
I didn't realize
Always
how much
Denny.
y'all look alike.
Act alike.
I didn't realize how
Act
much.
alike.
So that means that your father must look a lot like y'all too.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I seen the one picture of him or two
Okay.
pictures, but now that I'm like, y'all really.
But what's weird is
break
how
out
much
the
they
double
act
mint.
alike and don't even realize that they are the
Say the
same
double.
person because her
say
favorite
that all the
snack
time.
is like summer sausage and crackers and cheese. They act just
They
alike.
do act alike.
Well,
And
we are
then,
both
Denny, when you
cancers.
wear your hair,
Yeah, and they
we
both
are.
cancers.
and when you wear your hair, you wear your hair down. Yeah.
They look and act just alike.
They
I'm like, Mama, that
really
don't make no sense
do.
how much you act like summer.
She said that all the time.
She said me that
She said
too.
all, yeah. She
Oh, because she see on both sides.
Yeah, I
Because
see
you
both
wear
sides. I'd be
both-
like, oh my gosh, this is weird. And they both cancers, like she said.
Yeah.
They act just alike.
Yeah.
She be like, baby, I ain't got time to waste on this. I got stuff I got to do.
You
Let me
ain't
get
got time
going
to
in
tear.
there.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Ain't no
That's
sense
all.
sitting back
That's
crying. I got
okay.
stuff to do. Let's get up and get up.
Yes.
And you kind of a lady of few words.
Stay on the move. No,
Yeah,
you know
she
what I mean?
she is a lady of
A few,
few
like
words.
she's
And
not
she
just,
say
she
what
just
she
not
needs to.
yeah, and Summer's
saying
kind
it.
of a lady of a few words too. Like y'all are
Real
talking and
classy.
cut up, but y'all ain't
Yeah.
gonna be. You ain't gonna hear a lot of words come out.
Yeah, no.
Like my sentence is 10 words. Your same thing would be two
Two.
words.
Yeah.
I said no. Mine is well. You see, because the way things went.
Because me and you are Capricorns and we act
and
like
then I had to turn left.
Okay, so we got 2 Capricorns and 2
two cancers.
Okay.
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
4 C's in the house.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That should be a
4
verse.
C's.
4
4
C's.
C's. Then he love creating groups.
Okay. Yes.
I know that's
What it's
right.
about. Make a way out of no way.
Okay.
Tisha, you came up with a few questions.
Yes, I did.
Do you want to ask her one of those
Yes,
questions?
I'll ask, and we'll start with LaTanya.
That girl said Latanya. That's a professional name.
Okay, first we want to. Well, I guess not. Well, we'll just say my question was, I guess depending on the death and what you grieve, did you blame yourself in any way?
Hold on, you guys.
Raise to the sun.
You gotta tighten that. You gotta tighten that.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I really don't want you to
come close. That's fine. I just want them to be able to hear me. Now,
Why is it okay?
the question was, do I blame myself in any
Did you?
way
Yeah, we'll just go around.
Yeah.
for the deaths that I have, the grief or whatever grief, and we know that you grieve in different ways. I didn't blame myself in any deaths that I grieve, because I'm a firm believer that, you know, when a person is living, you do all that you can for them. You know you've done everything. If they call you at 12 at midnight, you know, you get up and go, because some people say, well, you know, I'm not losing sleep for nothing. But sometimes sleep needs to be lost because you don't know the urgency
Yeah, that's true.
That is
of what's going on. So you get up and go. With that, I've never blamed myself. I always wanted to have a clear conscience. And I always tell my children, grandchildren, and now great-grandchildren, I do everything that I could possibly do, even friends or family. So if something happens, I can have a clear mind about everything. I don't feel guilty about anything. Now, you know, the grief of breakup and stuff like that, you know, the mind go back and see, you know, my mind thought back and say, well, what could I have done differently? Did I do something wrong? If I did, though, but I made up the mind to do the split. So with that, my mind was made up. Whatever I did, God forgive me and move on.
Yeah.
What about you? You ever?
I thought we was going in order.
I'm skipping this question.
Ah,
Why? Okay,
You must
well,
blame
we're not
yourself.
No.
We're gonna skip that.
So you
Or whatever.
No, I don't blame myself.
Oh.
Go ahead. Summer.
I'm gonna say I wouldn't. Well, with grief, I feel like we all know there are like they say 5 stages,
Mm-hmm.
and so denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And so I have done like bargaining before. I've dealt with each one, and I don't feel like each one comes in a certain order. I mean, because you can lose someone and instantly feel anger.
Yeah.
Some people
That's a good point.
accept it right off, but
Yeah.
may later on result into depression because
That's
I mean, just it can go in either way, you know. But the bargaining for sure, because I would question like, what if I would have done something different? Like you said, like or I would even ask like, why me? You know what I'm saying? So like, what did I do in this life or to cause this? Was it something that I done? You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
have had those questions before. But like you said, ultimately, with me, I feel like everything has its purpose. Everything is going to happen for a reason, regardless of what I do or don't do. You know what I'm saying? It's all going to align with God's purpose at the end of the day.
Amen.
And
Sure
so,
will.
so yeah.
So now, do you feel like hearing you say that there have been times where you question like, why me or what did I do? Do you feel like, God forbid, if you suffered a loss today, that you would go right back to that question, or you feel like you'd look at it different?
No, I look at a lot. I think each passing, you know,
Of a
that I've
person.
experienced or whatever took me to a different level. You know what I'm saying? I can honestly say, like, when my daddy passed or whatever, I was 8 years old. And so I think I was a little mean little girl. I had my little moments where I was kind of mean. And so then when I lost my mama, I think a part of me was kind of becoming like self-destructive a little bit, drinking a little more, smoking weed or whatever. And I was just wanting to be on the go, trying to numb it.
Yes.
Not wanting to deal with what I was experiencing,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And then when Tedrick passed or whatever, it just opened up a whole nother, it was just a totally different experience. I just started looking at death in a whole nother way, only because like things that transpired during his passing or whatever. And it just made me realize, like, for me, it may not be the truth for somebody else, but I feel like when somebody passed, I don't even look at it as death. I feel like they're passing.
They're
They're
transitioning.
transitioning over.
Right.
And so I recall, I don't mean to be long-winded.
No, be long-winded by all means. I'm
But
into
no,
it.
so like when Tedrick passed or whatever, the next day, Erica had came over and we was on the couch talking, and I was telling her about how things went that day or whatever, you know, when he passed, and just talking to her about certain different things or whatever. And later on that night, Kiana came over there. And when I tell you, she was able to tell me what me and Erica talked about, because Tedrick wanted her to tell me. He was answering my questions.
Wow.
Certain questions.
Wow.
And so for me, and then a couple of days, maybe not days, shortly after that, I had what someone would call a dream, but for me, it felt like I had literally just laid down. And I was talking to Tedrick, but I knew I could hear nature, like birds chirping around him, but I felt he was there with me too in that moment, like we was having conversation. And so for me, that was him letting me know that he's everywhere.
Yeah.
Like he may not be here physically
Right.
Yeah.
or whatever, but when I call his name, he's everywhere, the infinite. Like he knows
Right.
consciousness or whatever. We're connected.
Outside
Right.
of different
And so
realms.
just my whole mindset of death changed. And so, yeah.
I agree with Summer. I can remember and I can recall my mother passing, and I remember it May 19th, 4:59 p.m.
Oh.
down to the time. As I was there, I remember I was at work and they
Come
called, and they called to say, you know, if you want to get, you know, just now's a good time to get to the hospital. And I agree. I saw death in a different light at that time. So I too went on a drinking binge. It was my grandmother who outlived 4 of her children. And she told me, well, you know, your mother wouldn't want you drinking and carrying on like this. And she's standing up to the stove. I'll never forget it, fixing me breakfast, just talking to me the whole time. And that really helped me. So I agree when you first start off, but then you realize, I too, like you, I lost a daughter. And again, it just took me because with death, and I always tell people that's the hardest thing for me, because when you don't want to, I don't know if you can call it selfishness, because you don't want to lose nobody that's right there. You know, you want them to be here with you and have the fun that you're having. So even with that daughter, it took me fast, and I did the same thing because it was unexpected. So I felt the same way.
Session.
But as I begin to, like you said, understand this thing with death, knowing that we all must go that way, I can understand it better. And I was able to let go. So now it helps me by holding on to the memories of them that I have. And we have to know that death is sure for everybody, because that's what the word tells us.
Right.
We all have to go that way. And that's why we prepare to do that. And it's our job as mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers to teach the babies what they need to do, because the Bible said to train them up in the way that they should go. And that way you know for sure that if something happened to me today or tomorrow, heaven is my home. And that's what helps me to shout. So knowing that and rejoice within myself. And even with that, your loved ones. So I agree with you. It not that it makes it easier, but as the days go by, it does help you. And you never forget them. They're always there. They're always
So
there.
for our audience, not to put you guys out there, for the sisters on the panel, they've both experienced losing mom and dad and children.
Yes.
Both of them.
Yes.
Something that, thank goodness, unfortunately, I wouldn't know how to feel with that. It's strong for me. I admire, like I couldn't.
The strength.
So, I hear you guys talking about some of the things that help you, like you still knowing that you're communicating and putting your mindset that that's a transition. You don't truly die, you transition.
Right.
And you having people around you and your faith. Tisha, what's something that you feel like if you've ever grieved or dealt with that would help you to kind of deal with a loss?
Well, now that y'all are talking, I went in this thing thinking about death only. But when you said friendship, relationship, then I was like, oh God, I didn't even think that.
Yeah.
So I've had more of that than anything. But with the death, I've had, you know, family members pass, but someone that was close to me, I really only experienced one death. And that was my father. So for me, I didn't deal with it at all until I was 30 years old.
How many years was that after he had passed?
He died in 99. He died, so what's that, 10 years?
You didn't deal with it until 10 years.
So how did you feel? I don't
Yeah,
know,
no,
how
you're
did you
right.
feel when he died? Like
Initially.
yeah.
Well, I didn't blame myself till later, but I felt like it's for the best at the time. It's for
Because
the
you
best.
were angry or because you wanted him healed?
Because his life was just not, it just was like, he was, I think he was depressed. I don't think he wanted to be here anymore. My daddy was in the 80s, middle class was a different type of middle class. So he had a good job, good money, making $25 an hour in the 80s is big money.
Yeah.
Then when he went to not making barely that amount of money, his life just kind of went downhill. And he was just almost like a sore thumb for everybody. It's like, oh, here you go. It was just so much. And I think I was so angry at him. I was like, it's just for the best. So I didn't shed a tear. I wasn't sad. I didn't do anything with that. It wasn't until they carried his casket out, I was like, oh, sniz out. This is real.
This is real.
Yeah.
So 10 years go by and you're ready to deal with it. What do you feel was your first stage? Do you feel like you were at like Summer said, because it could be in any order?
Well, I blame myself because the day he went into the hospital, he never came out. And that day I came over my sister's house and he
You might have to get Mason. Go
okay,
ahead.
hold on. You want to get Mason?
I think, what about the tightening?
Okay, pause. We normally don't have issues with that one.
There we go.
Can we push it?
We've
Mama,
had
push
that
it
one
close.
before.
Push
Yeah.
it close?
You're going to have to
Okay.
push it.
Right
Yeah,
here.
the
Okay, there you
bottom.
go.
There we go.
Okay, you said the day. I'm
Thank
waiting
you.
for something.
The day he went into the hospital, I went over my sister's house and he was over there and he was like, take me to the emergency room. And I was like, for what? And he was like, I can't breathe. And he was over there like,
Oh my.
and I was just like, I was so angry. And that's why I be like, the stuff we do when we 19, 18, you don't think, in
Yeah.
that moment, you thinking like, wait, hold on, just give us some time.
That's
It's
right.
going to tear you up come 5, 10 years. You got to deal with it. And so I did not
true.
take him to the hospital.
Tisha.
No.
So how did he end up getting?
I don't
it?
know how he got there. But
You
once
just
he
was
got
like-
there, he never came back. He never came out.
And so you've been you blamed yourself for not taking him. Had I taken him to the hospital, you've had to live with that.
Yeah.
Are you over? Have you forgiven yourself?
Yeah, because he forgave me. He wasn't mad at me at all. Once I started going to the hospital, I didn't tell my sister. Nobody knew I was going. People thought I wasn't going. I was going. I just wasn't telling nobody I was going. Once I made up my mind to start going, I was there with him. I was there when they said he wasn't gonna make it. I was there when they was what do you call it? Trying to resuscitate him. So I was there, but it took me a minute to understand like this man is really not coming out this hospital.
Yeah.
Because they just said it was a pneumonia. Then pneumonia turned into tuberculosis. Then it turned into the kidney shutting down. Then it just kept
It just
Yes.
was like a domino.
just kept going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Domino effect.
So I want to. You had some really good questions, so I have to delve into another one. Can you give me one of your good questions? So Tisha, yeah.
And this may not pertain to everyone, but another one I had was, what was your thoughts toward God? I think we kind of already
Towards God, that's a good one.
towards, if any, if it was, I mean, now that we're talking about this, I think towards God with grief, I've had some issues towards grief, but not a death.
Like you were angry with God.
Yeah, for not angry, but just kind of like, what we doing here?
Yeah. What are you doing? Why?
What was the purpose of that? But his ways not our ways. So
I think everybody to some degree has some questions for God when they dealing with some grief. Like, where are you? What are you doing? Why? Like you said, what's the purpose of this? You know, why didn't you, especially like, I think for me going through a divorce, it was like, hey, you couldn't warn me that this was coming. Like you couldn't stop me from doing this. Like it was one of those things. Anybody else?
Were there any signs before? I mean, because I just said it because sometimes we want God to reveal. Well, sometimes God will reveal little things, but we ignore them.
Hello.
You know, we ignore a lot of signs.
I think one of the greatest things that I think I've ever heard from God in a moment when I was going through a divorce, prior to my divorce, I heard Tony Evans say it in a different light. When his wife Lois was passing away, she said, "Let me go." And right before my divorce, was there a sign? No, he flat out told me. He said, in your very next argument that you and he have, he's going to tell you he doesn't want to be married. And that's going to be your sign that is basically over. He said he's going to come back and apologize and say he didn't mean it. But I've already told you what's going to happen. I kid you not. We get into our very next argument. It was so minute and petty. He literally was mad because I had to work. And he was like, well, I wanted you to be off. Well, I had to work. You knew that ahead of time. We get into an argument. He was like, I don't care because I don't really want to be married anyway. And I just froze. Yeah. And I froze up, not because of him, but because of what God had said. He was like, I didn't mean it. I was like, oh, shoot. Yeah. There goes too. And so he was getting ready to leave to go to another one of our properties at the time. And I got ready to reach out to try to work it out and ask him to stay. And I kid you not, I heard, let him go. So when I heard Tony Evans say, let me, I could relate to that. God was like, let him go. And that was, and I think sometimes when it comes to grievance or dealing with death or separation, whatever it is, we're selfish. Like you said, we want what we want. And you don't realize that what usually doesn't work out usually works out. That's what doesn't work out usually works out.
Yeah.
And so even coming from a funeral this past weekend, hearing the pastor say all things work together, and you have to realize that even in those grieving moments, that all is included in that too.
Oh,
It's included there too.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
What other question did you have? Oh, what you want? You
Well,
want
I
to
wanted
comment?
to say my attitude towards God was like, I thank you. I had the flip side.
That's a different.
I've never questioned him about a death because most of them died of a sickness, of an illness, and either they was going to get better or not make it. And you could tell after going visiting him so much and hearing from the doctor and everything, and even I can recall a doctor saying, even with my sister and her 15-year-old son sitting there, saying, well, she's not going to make it. She's not going to, leave here. Well, okay. So I said, I understand that you are the doctor. I said, but I'm going to pray to the doctor.
All right.
And she left there. She came out. That wasn't the time. And I can recall several experiences where I even prayed and asked God to hold back the time for my brother. They said he wouldn't make it. And I didn't. I didn't have money to even get to California at that time. And so I was always grateful to God. I was never upset. I could remember a time where I say, well, God, I'm upset with you because you took my so-and-so. But my prayer to him was, God, let me be able to have the money. So that time he spared my brother, not only one time, not two times, the third time, but I had enough money that third time to go to California. So I say, well, God, I thank you. And I had the opportunity to spend time with him. And he said, I want all my sisters around my bed. And we gathered around his bed, and I can remember, he said, well, I need you to scratch my back. And one thing I remember, he's in the hospital this last time, and he said, and I'm scratching his back. He said, you gonna scratch my back or not? I said, I am scratching your back. And they were saying pretty much it's the medication. So I look at the flip side of that. Even with my sister, I've had a couple of sisters that have passed on. And with, like you said, each time, I think it strengthens us. I thought at one point, especially with my sister Pam, she moved here after. She was one of my sisters. We was in California together, and I left her with an apartment fully furnished, moved here, had just bought some brand new furniture that was in there. Next thing I know, they said, well, Pam's selling all the stuff in your apartment. I said, she's doing what? Yeah, next thing I know, she was getting off the plane coming to Texas.
Okay, because that's second mama.
It is. She was getting off the plane coming to Texas. So, and even with that, I say, Lord, I thank you for the time. And so I never felt angry about anything with God when something happened. But I thanked him, and I thank him for the time we had. We spent together. I always, and I share with people, you think that when you're younger and you're looking around, you grow up, and I had that one brother, he was there, and it's all girls. My mother had 5 girls, and then my dad had Summer. And even with that, we all were growing up in the same house. My thought was we'd all grow up, and I'd get to visit this house and visit that house and visit that house. And although it didn't turn out that way, I never was angry at God, but I thank him. And I thanked him even at that time for the time that we had. And that's most important. And I instill that in my children. Spend the time. All it takes. And I said, have gas, we'll travel. That's all it takes. Or whatever. Even save enough money for an airplane ticket. Because that happened before, so you ain't going to be caught like that.
Right.
You still got sisters in California. So save your pennies, save your dimes, save whatever you need to. Because if you need to catch a flight, you need to go when you need to go. So I've never been angry at God, but I did thank him for the time, even through the divorce that I had. God, I really believe it. He showed it to me because I can remember it. Things happen just like that. Things don't happen just haphazardly. You said it. He's always on time. There's a purpose, and it's for you too. You ask God to do something, he reveal it. Either you want to see it,
or you don't
want to see it. And so even in that, I say, Lord, I thank you. Even though the rough times or whatever we may go through, but God spoke. Every tear, I'm going to bottle them up.
Come on.
Every tear, I'm going to bottle them up.
What then would you guys say to someone who's currently Thank God that in this season it's not us. But for those people that in this season it is them, they're currently dealing with someone who's passed on. You know, maybe they're going through a divorce. Maybe them themselves are in the hospital with the prognosis that doesn't look good, and they've been given a certain amount of time to live. What's some of the things you guys would probably say to somebody who's grieving or have grieved, or got any advice?
Well, I can just speak from my experience or whatever. Just take the time that you need. I mean, like I said, there is no certain time frame of grieving, but also in the midst of you grieving. So allow your time to shed those tears or whatever, but don't dwell in it. Don't lay and rest in it and, soak in it, because that can take you to like a dark place.
Yes, it could.
So, like I used to, like when Tedrick first passed or whatever, I would request off like on his birthday or like the day that he passed, because I didn't know what type of mood I would be in,
Right.
And so, but I realized I had to say so on what mood I wanted to. It was my choice.
That's right.
And so sometimes I chose to weep and cry and think about my baby, but I wouldn't stay and I pick myself up and carry on.
That's
or
it.
some days I would just, rejoice and celebrate his life. And so it just depended on what I wanted to do in that moment.
You allow yourself to feel whatever you want to feel and be in your mood.
Yes, to feel that and not be numb in it. I would recommend don't rely on like substance abuse, like alcohol and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, because you do need to feel it. You do need to
Right.
deal with it.
Right.
Right.
Because I've had people tell me that they thought they were losing their mind. Like they really thought they was losing their mind after losing somebody.
That's right.
And so, I mean, and I do feel like it does do something to you mentally. It changes you. It changes your mindset. It changes your outlook on life. And if you're not grounded, it can affect you in it can take a toll on you.
I think you saying don't rely on substance abuse because you're numbing it, but you're not going through the stages.
You're not going through
You're just
it.
numbing it. And when you get through numbing it, you gotta
You
still
don't have to keep.
Deal
you
with
gonna
it.
have to still deal with it.
That's
yeah,
true.
that's a good one.
Absolutely.
What
That's
about you, Tisha? What would you say?
What's the question again?
I'm sorry, okay. Yeah, I know, me too.
I'll be like,
I know I was loving to allow yourself to feel what you feel, because one thing I always say to my friends is that when you're dealing with something in life, it ain't a speed bump. Don't just go over there like it just like boom, boom, and keep going.
That's true. That's true.
No, you gotta sit in that thing.
you gotta sit.
Right.
No matter how much, what makes you human is the ability to feel. Only cadavers don't feel anything.
That's true.
So you gotta go, what would you say to someone who's basically probably grieving or dealing with grief or have dealt or?
Well, I know for me, I wasn't going to talk about it, but my sister, she called me last night or the night before last. She was like, I think you should talk about this.
I think you should.
But I think that you should feel how you feel and don't allow what's going on around you to make you feel ashamed about feeling in that. Because for me, now I'm going to tell something about me that I don't like to discuss really, but grieving so much that nose ring. She was playing with it. All I saw was just like, wait, you telling me something? I shouldn't. Okay. But
Checking to see if it's still there.
I've had recently, a miscarriage. I've had 2 miscarriages, and someone made me feel as though that wasn't a big deal. And so what that did to me was make me say, well, this isn't a real grief. This isn't a real death because you didn't carry it for 9 months, or this isn't a real death. So you need to be able to move on with that. Like that's what so what I'm saying is when someone don't allow nobody to make you feel like what your situation, just because it wasn't a stillborn death doesn't make it no lesser than a death.
At all.
You still were pregnant.
Absolutely.
You
Right. And it's still a part of you.
You're still a
Right.
part of you.
Absolutely.
You still had to go through that heartbreak, and I didn't deal with it because I was like, well, maybe you should just move on from that because that is not a big deal. You got people that is burying their child that they've cared for. You got people that are having, they're birthing out a child that was dead, and you're moaning and groaning about a 2-month pregnancy. So, but I was in that moment dealing with that until someone came to my house one day and they were like, how's the baby? Because I hadn't told them I had lost the baby yet. Yeah. And then I was like, well, I lost the baby last week or whatever. And she was like, I'm so sorry to hear that. Look at these pictures. Look at these ultrasounds of my grandbaby. Oh. Not even 10 seconds later.
Wow.
And that triggered me like, Tisha, this is not an important situation. What you going through? It triggered in me like, maybe this isn't a big deal. Maybe a miscarriage is just move on. Because I was like, if it was, would she have done that? Yeah. It was like literally in 20, not even 20 seconds. Look at these of my grandbaby.
Wow, that's
and I think I cried for weeks by myself. I don't even think Daryl know that I was just like, it's just like, because I was just like, I guess what I'm going through is nothing. So then when the second one happened, I didn't say a word because I was like, Tisha, this is not a serious topic because it's people that's actually bearing their child, like maybe. And then when I started researching, I realized that a lot of women who have miscarriages, they go through a shame and embarrassment because they feel like it's something they did wrong, or why couldn't they carry it, or they don't talk about it. They keep it private. Yeah. You don't even know that somebody could be miscarrying because it's just like a period. Yeah. Depending on how far along you are, you would never know because they kind of keep it. And so what my advice to that would be, your situation is important.
It is.
Your grief is just as important.
I'm so sorry. And I hate that. I hate when people go through something and somebody else is like, well, somebody else could have it worse. That does not help in any capacity. At all. Because I'm not somebody else. I'm me. Mm-hmm. And how I handle trauma and how I handle what I go through, I'm an individual. Mm-hmm. Talking to me about what Bobby and Susie are going through, that does nothing for me. It doesn't make my situation any less important, any more minute. Like, I think that's very inconsiderate. That would definitely not. I think if you can't, sometimes your presence is a present. If you can't just be there quietly without something to say, sometimes it takes you just being there for a person. You ain't got to talk. You ain't got to look at these pictures of my ugly grandbaby. Yeah. You ain't got to do that. Yeah, I said it. You don't have to do that. Sometimes just being in a person's presence instead of making them feel a certain way. Yeah. Like Job. I think that's Job to me in the Bible is a perfect depiction of sometimes when people come around you and what did you do? Right. So not necessarily anything. Well, you had to have done something wrong or you should feel like this. You don't get to come around and tell me. If you're going to come around, just sit here and be present. Let's just sit here in silence. Yeah.
That's why I always tell people read the room. Yeah. If you would have read the room, you wouldn't have shown me those ultrasounds. No. Because you would have read. Okay. So have some discernment. Let the Holy Spirit guide you. Okay. Let me see. Girl, when I saw the ultrasound, I was just like, oh. Okay. It just took me back. I know it did. It hurt. So yeah. So
I didn't even think about women who've lost, and I have a daughter who's lost a child. I didn't think about miscarrying. That's a part of your body. Yeah. That's a part of you.
It messes with your psyche.
Of course.
Because you're like, why can't I? And then you got my mama. Well, why you ain't had kids? My mama don't even know. Yeah. Oops, surprise. I never even told her about neither one because I don't want to go through the rigmarole. What happened? Right. Well, why you didn't? So what I would say anytime, which is what you said and what you said, like losing a child is never fun. It's, of course, but you don't know who you could help down the line. That's a testimony for someone else. True. I'm now with miscarriages, I look at things completely different. Don't shame nobody for their situation because you don't know how many times they cried over a miscarriage. You don't know nobody's situation. So when you say, well, what's wrong with you? Or what? You don't know the situation.
So do you feel like, were you ever angry with God?
Yeah, I was angry. But then I was like, honestly, I was just like, somebody told me, when you're like in a state of grief, you're very like, for me, I was like looking for answers. Like, why, did this happen? And it was like, well, you shouldn't have been fornicating. It's like, well, you a product of fornication your own self. So I kind of put it upon myself to say, I made it my fault. Like you fornicate, or whatever. Yeah. But
so you blamed yourself and God.
I just asked God, I don't hardly know anybody that wasn't a product of fornicating that got some beautiful babies out of fornication. So what's the problem? Because but then I had to go, that's not what it was. That's not what it was. Because God does not condone the sin. I know that. But he does give the life. That is the bottom line. He don't condone the sin. But everybody here, I'm not saying like we all fornicate. I'm saying, but but there's so many beautiful things that happen out of that too. Yeah, so I had to get past that. You just got to go through your stages and be like, you know what, Lord know what He's doing. You just got to trust Him and go on.
Absolutely.
And
you just got the key word, your testimony, because what you just said you don't know who you touching out there, who are currently going through it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That speak volumes right there. And even in the midst of my
no, I'm just looking. I got an ugly face.
But yeah, I've reached out to other women who have lost kids. When if I feel compelled to, I message them and just send them some encouraging words like, "Look, I've been there. You know what I'm saying." Yes. And some people just need a picture, like, okay, because wouldn't nobody never look at me and say, even think that I've lost a child, or even you, Penny. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so. And like you said, discernment is key.
Discernment.
With my job, I don't know, like we come across a lot of donors, and something about that screening booth, when you in that screening booth. So we have two processes where you screen the donor and you go the part where you stick them in the phlebotomy area.
Right.
But I don't know how many people have just, like, they pour their heart out when I'm trying to do your little physical, trying to take your blood pressure, and they telling me whatever and I'm like, okay, and so that can be draining sometimes. Yeah. So I've even had to put up a wall, like I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Because it can be draining if you allow it to. Yeah,
that's true.
But there have been people that tell me like their kid is going through chemotherapy, this and that, and that's where discernment come in. Like, I'm not going to tell them specifically my story because
it'll take away their hope sometimes.
Yeah, take away the hope. And they, put that in their mind. Okay, so my child will probably die. Yeah. Yes. But now if it's somebody who child is like going, or how can I say, or if they've lost a child, if they've lost a loved one, then I'm gonna share my story with you. Right. It ain't for everybody. That's right. I feel compelled to share my story.
Right.
Yeah. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
That's right.
That's right. And so, what advice would you give?
Well, the first thing I would say now is to pray, because it seemed like there's so many had came. They just come at you, and as I stated before, I thought that I was numb to it until one day she really gone. She really gone. So my first advice would be, don't numb it, because you were right, because I took that action, and that's no good, because then you're doing some things to yourself then could be messing up your kidneys.
And you'll be next on the block. That's right. You'll be next.
And I have seen women who have actually had nervous breakdowns, because you're wondering, they were a large size, and then they see them. Well, I lost my son. I've talked to several women. I've lost my son, and it's been a son every time, and I had a nervous breakdown. So I felt led to pray for him. So my main thing I would say, though, if you could just say, God knows you, pray to Him about everything, and to encourage someone else. My mother had some very good advice. If you don't have nothing good to say, don't say nothing at all. Okay. Discernment, we talked about that. Sometimes it's just a listening ear is what we need. And that lady who came to you, I'm listening to you talk about the miscarriage. You just need a listening ear. That spiritual discernment would have told her, don't show them pictures. I don't care how bad she wants to show them.
That's right.
Show them down the line. Yeah. So that's what I would say. They say hold on to God's unchanging hands, but it is different. Death is different now with me. Yeah. So my thought is that I know we all must go pray with them, pray for them. And keep prayer in your life on every day. Just thanking for everything, because a little bit of water you can drown in. Think about it. You go down the wrong way and you just, or even that, or a piece of food. This happened to a cousin of mine eating, and that's how he passed on. He choked to death. So I'm going to definitely say keep prayer on the menu, and then always team up with somebody. Get somebody, because God will say, call so-and-so, and you don't never know why they calling. So it's good to hear that small voice. So when you call them, then on the other end of the phone, you be like, well, See, something told me. We always say something told me. That's the Holy Spirit told me to call you, because that's where you get your relief from others. You ever heard the term, well, if she could do it, I could do it. Not just meaning death, but as in anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be my
that's a
word
good
of
point.
advice to someone, and always team up with somebody positive. Because you don't need every time to hear that, girl, well, I dealt with the same thing. And then, therefore, you know it, y'all both sitting there drowning in tears. You need some, you know what I mean? No, you need some encouragement. Well, it was, but what keeps me going is that I think about my sister and the crazy things that she say. You will start cracking up at some of the things she did or said. And that's what keeps you going, the great memories.
Denny, were y'all the closest, almost like best friends, you and Pam?
Me and Pam, I would say that, I say that, you know, I love them all. Don't get me wrong, I love them all. But I would say that.
I think out of all with my mom and her siblings, my mom is always the one in the middle, the neutral one who's close to everybody. She like the axis to me. I think she grows out to everybody.
And I feel the same way. I think that the only thing is that she was the last one to go, and she was right here. And you see what I mean? It was like that. And then when I say the 12 o'clock calls, we didn't stay. I stayed on 15. She stayed on 12.
Right around the corner. Yeah.
Right around the corner. So a lot of times she would call and say, Denny, call me an ambulance. And that's the word she got out. Okay, I'm up and I'm getting on my clothes when she called me, because I know if she called at 11 or 12, she got to go. So I'm calling while I'm trying to get dressed, and I'm getting dressed, and I'm there before they get there. I got the lights on waiting for them. So and in the car where it started, I'm ready for them to come get her. You know, when they put her in there, I'm behind the ambulance ready to go. So she's the last one. But as Tangi said, that's true. I was close with all of them because I had a relationship with them all. And that's why I said, and I keep saying it again over and over and over, do the best that you can and spend time with people while you can. Because you never know what today or tomorrow may bring. You know, even the one that's sick. I was just telling the lady, she said that she hoped her husband had cancer, and she hoped he'd live for the anniversary in September. I said, well, I wouldn't put a time frame on it. So I sit there and I prayed with the lady that both of them have long life, because what was in my mind, she could die of a tragic accident today.
Right,
I didn't
pass before
say
him.
that, right. But I didn't say that. You have to have a spirit discernment. That wasn't the time for me to tell her you can go in a car crash. No, what you do is pray for both of y'all to have long life and a great anniversary.
Yeah.
I think that's some good advice. So I'll be transparent in closing it up, but I think my advice would definitely be to release regret. I think you have to release that. You have to forgive yourself. And it sounds cold when I say this, but when time is up, time is up. And so I think that's why you like really emphasizing to appreciate the time you have. When my sister passed, I think I was maybe 9. I don't remember. Do you remember how old I was? I don't remember.
You was probably about 9.
And she passed a few days before my birthday. So I hated rain. I hated my birthday for many years because I think her funeral was on probably on Tisha's birthday. It wasn't like the 13th, 14th, 15th. It was somewhere a few days before my actual birthday. So here I am. I have a birthday coming up. We're going to my sister's funeral. It's pouring down, raining outside. Yeah, it was somewhere around my birthday. And so for years, I hated rain. I hated my birthday. I didn't want to celebrate it. I didn't say like you. I didn't say nothing to nobody. It'd be like, oh, the rain's coming. And I'd be like, I hated rain. And so reason being is because my sister and I, even though she had a short life, we were very close. We had to come home from school, and we took care of my sister while my mom was in college. So we fed her, we kept her, we spent a lot. She slept with us. Like, we spent a lot of time with her. Funny little character she was. And how old was she when she passed? Almost 2?
Almost 2.
She was funny. So my sister Katrina would, she was a little fat, chunky, little cute girl. And she would, at dinner time, she loved French fries and juice. She was solid. She would go around the table at dinner time and collect everybody's French fries. She'd have her hand out and get your French fries. And then because y'all know how we was with fries. And when everybody's food was gone, you find her in a corner by herself. She pulled all these fries out that she collected and she'd eat them. And so I remember when she was passing away, right before my sister passed, same like your dad, my mom was like, y'all can't go outside. My mom wasn't home. She was I don't know if she was in college or work or somewhere. And so my sister and I, you know, she was my cousin. We wanted to go outside. We wanted to go play. And my mom was like, no, y'all got to stay in the house and keep Katrina. And I remember being like, I don't want us. I hate her. And so the next thing I know, my sister's in the hospital and she passed away. She never came out. So my last words to her were basically like, I hate you. And so I had to live with that for many, many years. So I would say, release the guilt. And then I think my other advice is to focus on what's present. You still have life and there are people around you who still love you and they need you there. Your children, maybe your family members. Try to do something positive. I think where I am now, if somebody close to me, God forbid, passed away, go travel. Go take a vacation. Go spend time at the water. Just stand there, do nothing. Go travel. How can you find a positive way? Get a little closer to your friends and family. And then you have to make room for divine interruptions. At the end of the day, this is God's. We're all borrowed. We're borrowed, our money's borrowed, our time is borrowed, everything is borrowed. So you have to make room for divine interruptions. God is going to interrupt your life and he's not going to ask your permission to do it. And I think what I want to say in closing is that I have to realize that when somebody is loaned to you, they were God's first and he loved them more. So it's selfish of us to say, well, I love them and I want to keep them. Yeah, but I loaned them to you for a good amount of time.
True.
And I love them more and I want them back.
True.
I want them back. So.
And that's that.
Yeah. Like you said, I don't want them to suffer. And I heard somebody say one time before, they said, how do you know that God doesn't take someone when they're at their best? We all are sinners. We all have our debaucheries and things that we do. Sometimes God looks at a person's heart and know that that's the cleanest and the best they're ever going to get in life. So it's my grace to pull them now before they keep walking down the road getting worse. And then I have to judge them in another light. So whatever you got to do.
But in my thing, I want to add to that, God can even use the person when they're in their worst, because even the one who looks like they're in their worst, you don't know how many lives that they have touched.
That's right.
That's true.
That's right.
That's true.
And I do want to add this too. What the hardest thing for me to do, this is where strength comes in that you don't even know you had. But when I just knew that my mama was holding on for me.
Yep.
And I had to tell her, Mama, I'll be fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't know, baby, what I was going to do the next day without my mama. But I had to tell her that because I knew she was trying to hold on for me. And shortly after,
Let them go.
As you do.
Yeah. When Pam was in the hospital, I don't know if you remember this, I'm going to say this. When my aunt was like a second mom to me. That was my world. She combed my hair. That was my world. But when she was in the hospital getting ready to pass, she got upset. And she asked the doctor that day, how long is this going to take for me to pass away? And the doctor said something so profound. He said, you ought to be grateful to God that you have the time in this hospital bed to say goodbye to your family. To make those preparations, to love on them and to say what you need to say. Yeah. He said, because some people go quickly in an accident and it's immediate. True. They don't get to say goodbye. They don't get to make plans. They don't get to do anything. So I think that's another thing. Since death is inevitable, prepare. Nobody wants to deal with a will. Nobody wants to deal with what they have to leave behind, the carnage of what's going to be left behind. But you're going to be moved on to glory, celebrating in eternity, like you said, moved on to another realm. And everybody here is going to be left with the carnage. So the best thing you can do is prepare. Not for you, for the people you're leaving behind. Make ways for them. Yeah. So so at least while they're emotionally grieving, they don't have to physically deal and financially deal with that.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's true.
That's a good point.
That is very true.
Anything else, ladies, before we wrap it up?
I would say that because memories, again, it goes back to that because, you know, you always remember what your grandmama said, what your mama told you. And so that's the good stuff that you hold on to. And that's what helps you also to be able to let go, to know that they're tired of hurting. So that helps you also to cope. We have to look at it that way. Do they really want to be here? It shouldn't be our selfishness that we want them here. But sometimes they hurt, and pain is pain. It does. They want to be out of pain. That's just like
And
you
they
said.
do teach lessons because
So-
you know what just came to me? I keep saying I'm going to say this. You guys' father passing away the way we had to all watch him pass away and suffer in that room day after day. We had to physically watch that. And I say that to say because then we had to watch it with Carla. Physically watch that in a room.
Yeah.
But when you said God can even use them, let me tell you how God used them. Knowing that I had to physically watch them endure and suffer, I never picked up a cigarette. I've never puffed one, smoked one, never. Because watching them at such a young age deal with lung cancer, it was teaching me a lesson even in that. And I, to this day,
Look at that.
never.
Look at that. So it is a positive in everything.
Yeah.
It is.
They say that for a reason. It's just not negative. It's a positive.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
Where the
Anybody
minus
out
is a
there? Go
plus.
ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, I do. I just want to say something real quick. I just want to say you always be grateful for any circumstance that you're in, no matter what, and be available to people. We so busy in our lives that it's getting to the point now where it's like I'm not saying it's a sin like God said it's a sin, but it almost feel like a sin to be so busy in your own world that somebody could be crumbling right there and no one's there for them. You have to ain't nobody that busy. And nobody's that busy to where you cannot pick up, not text. Pick up that phone.
Yeah.
Make those lunch dates. Make those, go check on them and just be available to that. And how much time we got left?
That's it. That's it. But to anybody out there who's grieving, going through loss or having trouble dealing with it, I hope from the bottom of my heart that you have a support system and some comfort and that you find a place that's safe for you to deal with that mentally. Yeah. Anything else, ladies? Or you want to wrap it up?
You know, I was thinking as Tisha was talking, though, the only thing you said about being busy, the only thing I would like to say, they got a word that was created called stop.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Stop.
Stop.
There you
Stop.
go.
Yes.
That's a good one.
In the name of love.
Until next time.
Thank y'all for
Thank
tuning
you.
in.
Thanks again for
Bye.
having me.
That was so good. You're a natural, didn't you? You sure was.
I feel great. I do. I didn't shed no tears. I didn't do. I've been over here shedding tears. No, I did. They were coming. It's just like they didn't even well up in my eyes, and that's what I'm saying about the good memories. Because I have to think about. I remember, Pam, the stuff that she do mainly. Like I said, she's the last one. The lady, even at the hospital, Pam, you ain't supposed to be out here smoking. Then they take me down going to smoke.
Tell them what they said, what the sign.
The lady took her down, and ma'am, there's just no smoking sign right there in Hillcrest. The lady said, ma'am, see that sign? What does it say? She said, don't feed the ducks. It was stuff. And so it's stuff like that keeps me.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.